Imagine this. You're in the line at your local Department of Motor Vehicles, waiting to take your driver's license road test. You've been patiently waiting for over an hour and your number is finally called. You're flushed with excitement to finally be one step closer to driving freedom, only to approach the counter with your documentation and be told that you're missing information. The DMV has enacted a new procedure that requires an additional form be completed and notarized before the form can be submitted. Your mood goes from relieved to panicked and irritable. Then you remember you have the phone number from your local notary who conducts remote online notarizations. You ask the representative if the form can be emailed after completion, and they say yes. You're ecstatic and one step closer. You make a quick phone call to set it up, email the document to the notary, and join a video session to complete the e-notarization right from your phone. Within 10 minutes, your document is e-notarized and emailed to the representative. Success! You passed your driving test and are now a newly licensed driver, ready to hit the road. You leave the DMV excited for your brand new driver's license, and you're ready to celebrate. Your mom's allowing you to use her car for the occasion. You call up your friends and tell them to meet you this evening at your favorite restaurant spot downtown. Parking's tight, but you manage to find a spot that you may be able to legally park in, so you take it. After a few hours of laughing and engaging with your friends, it's time to end the night, and you begin walking back to your car, or at least where you thought you parked your car. Now you begin to panic. Is this where I parked my car, you wonder? Maybe I parked somewhere else, you question. Then you see the same red graffiti you noticed on a nearby wall when you arrived, and now the dark truth is set in. Your car's been towed. Well, your mom's car's been towed. What are you going to do? You find the information for the towing company and have one of your friends take you there, only to hear when you arrive that since you're not the registered owner of the vehicle, they can't release the car to you. Your heart drops and you know you must now call your mom and explain the whole situation. The quickest way out of this is to have your mom write, sign, and have notarized a letter stating that the car can be released to you. Sounds simple enough, but it's 12 o'clock midnight and every business is basically closed. Then you remember your local notary and decide to give her a call. Your mom writes a letter and emails it to the notary, and they hop on a quick video session to notarize the document remotely. The letter's then emailed to you so you can show the worker at the tow shop, who releases the vehicle, but of course only after you pay the hefty tow fee. Crisis solved in under 20 minutes. Well, the tow crisis. Now you still must go home and deal with your mom. After this double narrow escape in one day, you decide you should investigate what your notary connection does. You reach out to get basic information on what her business entails, and she gives 2 books. How to Make $1,000 a Week as a Notary Public by Vaness, and this one, Ron, The Ultimate Guide to Building a Successfully e-Notary Business. She also recommends that you take an online training program at www.notary2notary.com. She tells you how she got started in the industry and how much money she makes monthly, and you're blown away because you've never heard of becoming a notary as a full-time income source. You hurry home and begin studying the material. As you set up your business the way instructed, you begin to see the fruits of your labor happen. $150, $500, $1,000, $3,000, $7,000 in revenue each month. You started off working from home, completing runs on your computer throughout the day, but now you take your laptop with you wherever you go, and you generate income for yourself if you have steady Wi-Fi connection. You're living the best life. Your mom's surprised by how lucrative your new business venture is and asks you how she can get started too. So you give her the same 2 books that your notary connection gave you, and the cycle repeats. What if it could be that simple?
We're going to be talking about remote online notary and how you can use e-notary as a stream of income for yourself as you build your notary business. Now, I have been a notary since 2014 and an e-notary shortly after, maybe like 2015, but it really didn't pick up and really start to make all of the noise that we're starting to see now until COVID. And during COVID is when most of everyone really got into it. It became this really big popular thing. And so we're going to talk about what e-notary is, the types of e-notary, how to do e-notary, and then how to market and get clients. So it's going to be a basic overview, but it's going to give you some of the steps you need to get to move forward in your voyage of adding Ron. Okay. Well, let me say, I say Ron, but it's really adding e-notary. Okay. All right, so we're going to just come from out of the course itself. So Ron is a part of a type of e-notary. So we're going to talk about that. I said Ron because most everyone knows what Ron is, or they've heard of the term Ron. When I say e-notary, people get confused and they think, oh, well, she's talking about something different. But we're going to break it down so you get really good on the terminology of all that's involved in the e-notary space. So this is going to be a really good intro course training. The benefits of, actually, I want to kind of talk about what e-notary is first. Yeah, let's talk about this. So what is an e-notary? An e-notary is a notary that notarizes documents electronically, hence the E, okay? E-notarizing utilizes digital certificates and digital notary seals to notarize documents electronically, okay? So the whole thing is done the whole thing is done in some form or fashion digitally, okay? The benefits of using e-notarizations is, of course, every copy is an original. Okay, so it's not like when you do something in person and you have the ink stamp and like, oh, well, you made a copy of that. Every copy is an original for an e-notary. Okay, it's more cost effective in regards to printing documents. Like your main, we'll talk about a little bit getting into fees and stuff, but as far as like printing, printers, gas, driving, things like that, it's more cost effective in that regard. You typically would still be paying for a platform. There are free platforms, so we'll get into that later. So there are some fees associated with e-notary, but it's just less when it comes versus in person. Okay, well, in person loan closing, because general notary work is like you're just paying pretty much for gas for the most part. It saves time for both the notary and the signer, especially if a mistake is made. You don't have to like try to drive back out to a signer's house to get them to re-sign. You can just get back online again and do another session. So it's easier to do corrections. And then the identity proofing methods are way more secure and effective than a human being, okay? So for most of us, when we are validating identity, we're checking the ID and we're saying, okay, you look at that person. But how many of you guys really know how to spot a fake ID? Or are you really holding it to that person's face to make sure it's them? You know, or is it just like, oh, okay, you look like them. We're not really like saying, hey, there's a mole here, there's no mole. You know, we're not really studying all their facial features. And so the software that these companies use, the identity proofing methods, are a lot more precise than the average notary, than humans in general. So it is more secure and effective in that regard when it's executed correctly. And in so being, the sessions are less likely to have fraud happen when it's done correctly. Okay, that's the rule of thumb there. When it's done correctly. Okay. So, and I like to highlight these benefits too when I'm talking to my clients, because it's like a selling piece for them. So they know, like, and I have like a template I use for all of my clients where I'm like, I highlight the pros of using it, how easy it is to use. And so it kind of makes people feel more safe in, you know, people love being able to save time. And that's a big one, saving time. You don't have to actually get out of your house. We can just do it right from your smartphone. And so I use a lot of these benefits when I'm trying to get new clients. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the 3 types of e-notary. So the 3 types of e-notary is going to be iPen, RIN, and RON. Okay, so I'm going to talk about these 3 different types, and then we'll get into like how to use them, how you can make money in it, things like that. So iPen is in-person electronic notarization. So the signer is physically in front of you and they sign digitally. Okay, the signer will also sign on the right. The notary will also sign and notarize digitally as well. So physical presence is still required, but you guys are signing like on a tablet. Okay, a popular company that does iPen, I'm sure you guys probably heard this point, is Escrow Tab. Okay, so iPen is in-person digital. RIN is remote ink notarization, and that's where the signer will sign via audio video communication. So they're remote, but they're still on an audio video communication, and they're doing a wet signature to the document, and then they may ship the document typically to the notary to have it wet, signed, and sealed as well. Okay. Sometimes you'll also do a scan and send. It just depends on what the requirements are, but there are wet signatures on the document and not digital signatures. And there are a very small handful of states that prefer RIN over anything else. They still prefer the wet signatures versus the digital signatures. Now, the first two are not very popular, but there is a type of e-notary. So IPEN and RIN are two types of e-notary. The most popular type is what we're going to focus on today is RON, okay? Remote online notarization, which requires the signers to appear before the notary using audio video communication to notarize the document. The signer will sign the document and so the notary and apply their e-notary seal. This is the most common way you're going to see an e-notary done at this point in time. Now, you want to make sure that you do not, we'll get into that in a minute. Okay, so let me go back a little bit. The most common type is remote online notarization. So the person is still physically not physical. They're showing up on an audio video communication and they are having their documents notarized in that way. Okay. To get started in e-notary in RON, okay, every state's different, so make sure you check with your state, but you do have to do 2 to 3 things. The first two things are required. You need to get a digital certificate, and you would get that from IdenTrust, and I'll put that link in the chat for you guys. You'd get that from IdenTrust. And there's a video in my training that shows you exactly what certificate you need to get and how to purchase it, retrieve it, and back it up. People mess that up a lot. Okay, it's very technical. It's a possibility you will do it wrong. It happens all the time if you do not watch the video. Okay. The digital cert basically validates who you are. And it also, important note, it tracks your location. So for most states, you have to be in your commission state in order to do an e-notarization. And so on your e-notary log, it will show the IP address, which anyone can pull if they have that document. So when a document is like e-notarized, there's typically like a barcode or a code of some kind that anyone can use to go see the original e-notarized document. And so when they pull that, they can see where you were. So if you're a commission notary in, let's say, Texas, but you were doing the document while you were on vacation in New York, not valid. You are not in your commission state. You follow me? Okay, so digital cert will track your IP address. The notary seal is very similar to your ink stamp. It just needs to be formatted digitally, which each state has their own requirements as far as what has to be on your e-notary seal. We provide those to you complimentary if you're in our e-notary course. So if you're in our e-notary course, which I'll send that link out in a second so you guys can see it, we provide you the e-notary seal as it needs to be formatted for your state. Okay. Apply with your state for e-notary authorizations if your state requires you to apply. So not all states require notaries to actually complete an application to do e-notary. So some states will say, okay, if you're a commission notary, that's all you have to do. Some states will say, okay, well, you are a commission notary. You have to have that first. Then we want you to follow up and do an application for e-notary. So it just depends on what the your state requires. Okay, so all right, so let's keep going. So after you do those 3 things, digital cert, e-notary seal, and apply with your state if your state has an application. As I said, in my course, I'll walk you through all 3 of those steps. That's the easy part. That's not even the easy part because the digital cert's a little tricky. You need to do that. You need to also read your state's handbook, the initial handbook, and if they have an e-notary handbook, the e-notary handbook as well, so you know the laws, because it's going to start getting very technical. And I tell everybody that's new to the notary space, my suggestion is to start with general notary work, long closing, and then e-notary, because When you're doing e-notary, you have to learn e-notary, the actual e-notary process. On top of learning general notary work and loan closing, because you're going to e-notarize general notary work docs and you're going to e-notarize loan docs. And if you don't understand those two things, you now have those two things plus e-notary to learn. But it doesn't mean that you can't do it. It's just going to be more information that you now need to master. Okay. And so I say that to say, how many of you guys have already been working as a notary, period, but you're like, okay, I want to get into Ron, versus someone who just saw maybe one of my videos, someone else's video, and said, hey, you want to work from home? Do Ron. You can absolutely do it. Just know you now have 3 tiers to learn. You're going to learn e-notary, general notary work, and loan closing. Okay? Everybody with me? All right. So